And with that being said, and I have with us tonight a lady named Tanya Kordek, who has the Bigfoot Museum in Talihina, Oklahoma. And I will be there on July 9th for a book signing. So if any of y'all's in the area, stop by and visit. And I'm real excited to get Tanya on here. Her and I have been playing email tag for the past several months, trying to coordinate a book signing and then to get this show going. So that being said, I'm going to welcome Tanya on, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about the Bigfoot Museum and her inspiration for that and all. Hello, Tanya.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you. And are you sitting in the Bigfoot Museum right now?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. I can't wait to go see it. And I'll tell you how I'd kind of heard about your museum, but not by much. And a friend of mine during a big snowstorm last year said he went down there to see it, and it was closed and it was snowy, but the phone number, he called it, and you came down there and opened and showed him around, and he's had good things to say about it. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. So Tanya, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I lived in Dallas, and I worked in the medical field for about 20 years, and we were retiring, and my husband and I moved up here to Southeast Oklahoma, and had no intentions of Bigfoots or anything like that. It's just really beautiful land up here. And, well, we had some Bigfoot encounters, and that's how we got here.
So what, so you moved from Dallas, I mean, like in Dallas proper, like in the big city?
Dallas, Texas, yes.
Wow. I can see, nothing against Dallas, but I feel the same about Dallas as I do any big city. My favorite part of any big city is when I get to leave. I am terrible in the traffic. It just drives me crazy. But yeah, my wife, she's a city girl, and she's uncomfortable in the country, and I don't like the city. So we kind of have to find a happy medium. So what inspired you to, being somebody from Dallas, to open up a Bigfoot museum? Was it a subject you were always interested in, or?
Absolutely not. I just thought we were going to move up here and retire, and my husband was still truck driving, and I was alone 5 days out of the week on the property. And I started having some unusual activity around me, and I actually thought it was maybe some stalkers or something. And I would hear something outside my window breathing at night. A lot of little things were happening. Okay. And go ahead.
Okay, to back up a little bit, you said you were on the property. This is the property you bought there in the Kiamichi Mountains.
Yes.
Okay. Did I hear right? You were there 5 days a week alone?
By myself.
Okay. So this property, I'm trying to get a mental picture of it. Was it remote property? Was it just nothing? Or
it was in Kiamichi mountain area. It was only 5 acres, but the mountains all around it and a lake. There was some activity out there, ATVs, and there was hunting going on. But on our area, I was pretty much so by myself. And I thought it's going to be really exciting to just rest, and because I worked in medical field for 20 years. So the thought of being by myself in the woods was really exciting. And then my husband came home once a week. And but then I started having all these things, and I really wasn't sure what was happening. So then with the breathing outside my window, I just was assured that there was some stalker out there. And
what kind of breathing? Like,
I would hear, it would sound like a real big, tall guy or something. And it would I had 6 dogs. I'm not making that up, because I thought the more dogs, the happier I would be, or something, out there in the middle of nowhere. And they would get real quiet and growl on the ground. And so then my husband would come home on Monday night, and I would hear something walk into the woods away from my window. And so finally, one night when he came in, he said, you just been out here too long, because you keep complaining about someone watching you and hearing. And then that night he heard, right after he talked about it, we heard on his side of the cabin something take its body and brush on all the way down the side of the cabin. And he heard it. And so it wasn't like I was making it up now. So now he was a part of whatever was happening to me. And we heard really loud screams when we were together. Those were the hardest things, because when a Bigfoot, we didn't know what Bigfoots were, though. When they scream, your whole chest vibrates. It's a scary sound. And so we had that happen a couple times. We had the breathing outside the window, and we didn't know anything about Bigfoots. We just knew something was going on outside. And so, this was over a period of 18 months. And then I actually had a encounter once and saw one during the day. And it was walking behind me. And one of my dogs that I was walking behind, I was actually walking to the creek to get my dogs. And one of them came running to me and jumped in my arms. And at that moment, I felt like something was behind me. And so I figured it was whoever this stalker was. And so I finally got up enough bravery to turn around, and it was a Bigfoot, and he was maybe 30 foot away from me, not very far. And he was going into the tree line. And then he went ahead, while I was standing there in shock, he went ahead and pivoted back into the dirt road and stared at me for a while. And so that was my daylight encounter. And
okay. Now I'm gonna ask some questions about that picture that you're painting there. One, I want to know a little more about the dogs. What kind of dogs are they? Big dogs, little dogs?
Well, I did have one Chihuahua, but the other ones were Chow Lab mix.
Okay, so not.
But the one that jumped into my arms was the Chihuahua.
Okay.
But
what was the reaction? And I'm building this visual up here, like your big dogs. What are their reactions when one of these creatures are near?
They don't bark or anything. They just get real close to me.
Okay.
Or they would run in the house.
So like if it's a human intruder, their reaction would be not like that?
Oh, barking their heads off.
Okay. So is it fair to say that they're a little bit scared?
Oh, very much so.
Okay. And that's a common thread when we in the subject of the Sasquatch. For some reason, dogs and Bigfoot do not get along very well. And if you've looked very far into this, that that. Matter of fact, I'll give you a background in an area not as the crow flies, not terribly far from you. Years ago, I had a guy, and he did not see a Bigfoot, but he described these strange vocalizations. And he was talking about his dogs that he had watched chase bear out of the yard. But when these calls would be going, he said they would whimper and hide under his porch. And this is in the Kiamichi Mountains as well. Now, the screams that you heard, can you describe those screams?
It's not like a woman screaming like I hear people talk about. Mm-hmm. It is a scream. It sounds like the biggest, longest scream you could think of, but your chest literally, it shakes like you're standing next to a speaker at a concert or something. It is really scary because you realize that it's not something you've ever heard before. and it very long and very, very big lungs to do it. It's
Have you heard any recorded alleged Sasquatch vocalizations, like recorded like from the internet, that resembles what you heard there?
After I started looking into stuff, there are some of them. A lot of the stuff on the internet too, though, is hoops and hollers. This kind of scream was more a scary scream.
Okay. Deep, high pitched. Did you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
High pitched,
okay, I'm sorry.
but more maley than female. It's not like a screaming, not like a girl screaming, but more like something you're not used to screaming. Okay.
All right. Now, and if you'll see me looking off the side when you're talking, I'm writing down things. So to do that. So now we get to the actual encounter. You said you had the feeling something was behind you. The Chihuahua jumped up in your arms. Were the big dogs with you at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt the hair on the back of my head going up, and I felt like something was really close behind me. And I had never seen a Bigfoot, and I just thought it was a man behind me. And I was pretty far, a couple acres from our cabin. And so when I decided to turn around, the first thing, when I saw him, an arm disappearing into the tree line, he went ahead and pivoted back into the road and staring straight at me. And the first thing you do is your mind tries to tell you what you're looking at. Because, for instance, I never would have thought a Bigfoot looked like what I saw, because I had the impression from television Bigfoots were like these big black gorillas or something, like gorilla looking. And this guy had, I actually at first thought that my husband had went and put my red hoodie on, because this guy had a cone-shaped head. And then when I started looking at him, I realized that there's no way that could be my husband, because my hoodie was a pullover, my red hoodie, and I could see a male chest. And so at that point, I had to start dealing with the fact that I'm looking at a real creature, and it's not my husband, and it's not some deer hunter or something. And he was really tall, probably maybe around 8 foot, between 7 and 9 foot. I've said that a couple times, because I did go back to the place and try to do the whole measure thing. But honestly, during that time in my life, I wasn't worried about statistics or, any of that stuff. I was just trying to get through the process of what I saw. But I always say between 7 and 9 foot. And it was cinnamon colored. It wasn't black or brown or white. And it just stared at me for a while, and then it went ahead and went back into the woods. And so then I just walked home.
Yeah.
But
so what were you feeling? I mean, because everybody reacts. I'm sorry.
I figured I'd die. I thought he was going to kill me, just because he was so big, and it was something I'd never seen before. And I figured I was going to die. I figured that, okay, this is it.
Wow.
And he was so close too, and I could see him really well. So, and the fact that he was disappearing in the tree line, but then he went ahead and pivoted it and stared right at me, that really freaked me out, because he wanted me to see him. So, it's no comfort zone at all. It's totally not comfortable.
And you said about 30 feet away. That's a face-to-face encounter.
Yeah. It's close.
Do you
yeah.
the face of this creature, did you get a good look at like facial features or anything like that?
Well, he looked kind of human to me, but not, because he didn't look like my skin, but he was kind of hairy. And it's just looking at him and him staring at my eyes and me staring at his eyes. That's a hard part. And, looking at his facial features, I was trying to decide that it was a human, not because it would have been easier if it was a human. It would have been easier if it was my husband, but it wasn't. And he looked kind of human, but not human.
I'm going to put this up there, Tanya, just because I think you should see it. This is one of our regulars here. She said, Tanya, you're doing great. We are all here for you. So
thank you. I'm starting to cry.
It's like I told you before we get on. You don't need to be nervous. We've got a good group of people here, and I've never had any problem with people being rude to my guests, and I don't expect any different. But
okay.
The way you said that, like a human but not. So that was his skin on his face. How much of the face was covered with hair? I mean, it was
this part was not hairy. This was.
Okay.
You could see a face.
Now, what about the? And I'm asking this because you were very, very close to it, and there's relatively few people that are actually close enough to one of these to actually see facial features. There's one gentleman here in chat that the Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group, Joe is his name, a friend of mine from up New York, and he had an encounter with a Bigfoot up there, and I believe it's Adirondacks, and he can, right here he put there. He called his Rasta. I don't know why, but that's what he nicknamed. He said looks human, but not exactly Homo sapien. And and actually, if I don't know if you're watching on a computer or whatever, but if you can see his avatar on your screen there, that that is an artist drew that face as he was trying to describe what the creature that he saw looked like.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Was that similar? Now, did you?
I don't know about his nose being as pointy as that, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like that it's dark like that because, it wasn't like a white face. It wasn't like.
Because see, I'll tell you, the only time I actually saw one of these creatures myself, it was not very big. It was. I'm guessing I said 4 foot, no more than 5 foot tall at that. And it was across a creek in fading light. And as soon as my eyes locked on it, it took off. And so the only recollection is probably I actually went back to this place the other day and was trying to step off how far it was away from me. And it was a good, probably 70 feet, which is still pretty close in the scheme of things. But all I could recollect of its face was it seemed like it was very dark, like almost a black, but the body was covered in hair that was kind of blackish gray, which was odd, which, I mean, seeing a Bigfoot's odd in the first place, but now I didn't have that sense of fear necessarily as much as like, my gosh, I've been coming out here all this time and I finally saw one. Now, if it had been as close to me as yours and was 7 to 9 feet tall, I might have had a completely different reaction than I did. But now going back to yours on its face, what about its forehead and such? Was it like a heavy brow, or was it more like just us? sounds like if you had a person that was an artist, you could get a pretty good rendition of it.
Yeah, probably. Well, you know, the thing too is, it really, I started kind of going into a shock thing, and that's because, you know, he was so close, and his hair, he had a lot of hair all around him, but this was not hairy right here. You could see that this was hair here, but as far as his eyes were concerned, you know, they were dark. They were dark.